And we're live. Hey, welcome back to another Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how can you get the best property deals in Costa Rica? Hey, is there a place where you can find maybe a list of like super deals? And you know what? Here's what's really important. Can you trust realtors in Costa Rica? Because in the United States, almost everybody goes through a realtor to either buy or sell their property. Is that the case in Costa Rica? Well, we're going to find out more and we're going to get into the details and going to tell you exactly how you can get all that info on today's Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast. But first, what's been happening on the off-grid homestead?
Who are you?
RNCJ? Oh, you know what? In case this is your first time here, I'm Alan. And this is my wonderful co-host down here who reminds me that if I don't introduce her, she forgets her name. So that's Rebecca. And we've been living in Costa Rica since November 2013. Dang, that's almost 11 years now.
Going on 11 years, yep.
I was doing good, but now I can't even count that high. So anyway, not only have we been living in Costa Rica, but we have lived in over 25 different places on purpose so that we can find the perfect slice of paradise. And we finally found it. We're still traveling around a lot, but keep in mind, living in Costa Rica and traveling in Costa Rica is totally different. But hey, we like to share our perspective. And keep in mind, it's our perspective, but we give you the unbridled truth so that, hey, a lot of people want to come and we don't want you to get conned because you can get conned if you ain't careful. So back to that question. What's been happening on the off-grid homestead?
Well, Alan.
Hey, nice to meet you.
You have been doing a lot of repairs.
Absolutely. The weather has been kind of nuts. Normally, and you heard us talk about the weather before, normally every day you wake up with a nice, fresh, sunshiny day. And of course, keep in mind, in a lot of places, it's kind of probably still been like that, but we live in a microclimate. And we've been here for almost 3 years now. And almost every morning, even in the rainy season, you got beautiful days. And because we're in a microclimate here, it would kind of start a little bit early, around 12 o'clock. You might cloud up 11, 12 o'clock, start raining soon. But normally in most of Costa Rica, almost set your watch that it's going to start raining about 2 o'clock during the rainy season. But then it'll stop about dark. Well, the last couple of weeks, it hasn't rained that much, which has been very unusual. But it's been so cloudy that our solar panels and the batteries we got just hadn't been keeping up.
Yeah,
but
we usually have like sunshine for at least a hour, 2 hours, good sunshine where you can hang your clothes out still in rainy season, but not for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's been
last
just
2 weeks.
Cloud cover from
you hadn't
the
even
time
been
you
able to
wake
wash
up.
clothes the last 2
Right,
weeks.
right. We just had a sunshiny day today and yesterday, and got a lot of washing done.
That's
Like
right. So
2 weeks
it's been very unusual, which means now keep in mind, if you guys has been following the channel, you know that I have a small solar system, and the solar systems are great these days. And if I had an adequate solar system, we wouldn't be having this problem. But I only got 6 panels, 2 batteries, and unfortunately, it's just in the summertime. Even with all the stuff that we operate on, it works fine. And so the problem really ran into last year when I bought a 7-foot freezer. Had a little bitty 3-foot deep freezer, and it would keep up, but sometimes had to charge. Well, I bought a 7-foot deep freezer because I like cooking. You heard me cook some Cajun gumbo, and man, you cook Nikki's food and everything. But anyway, bought a 7-foot freezer, and so anyway, I'm using way more power than my panels can put out. And so I had intended on upgrading my system. Well, push came to shove, and our system went down over the week. And so we had to get the solar guy back out. And I got 4 batteries now. And I'll go into detail on that in another video. But hey, we got 4 batteries. But I want to augment or supplement my solar system with hydropower. Pretty soon, you're going to get to hear and see some videos on what we're doing to supplement. So what's the right word? Supplement? Augment? they're both the same. She's a smart one in the bunch. I just come along for the ride.
It's an alternative source when one maybe is down, but we're going to use them simultaneously.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to use hydro, because with hydro, that hydropower is going to be working 24/7, because of course the river runs 24/7, where, hey, the sun sets every evening. If we go through 2 weeks of no sun like we did, it's not going to be a problem. And so and of course that was always the intention, but I've been so busy trying to clear, trying to build and all that, just hadn't done it, but now I'm forced to do it. So
but it's good to have both, because even though the rivers run continuously, there have been some very dry seasons,
yeah,
and the rivers have gone down really, really low for maybe a few weeks before the rain would start back up. And so you could get, like our neighbor gets caught with no
now most people in Costa Rica,
pelton,
when we get into a drought and the water runs down, because their pelton, their hydro system is so massive, so huge, takes a lot of water. But hey, I'll be educating you all on that, because hydro systems now are way, way, way better, and the solar systems are way better than they've ever been. So anyway.
And you had to fix the water leak.
Yeah, and we had a water leak in a brand new water line. How does that happen? Costa Rica, that's how. Buy a brand new line, get a hole in it. I think it came with a hole in it.
I think it did.
Anyway, back to what we're talking about. Shannon is going to be extremely happy, because Shannon says she's meeting with a realtor tomorrow to sell her house. Now, I'm guessing she's in the States, and that's normal. In the United States, it's normal. You can trust realtors in the United States to sell your house, and she's hoping to be down here by Christmas. Well, I congratulations. I hope you are here by Christmas. Hey, if you got any questions, concerns, hey, you can always schedule a phone consultation with us, so that we can make sure you don't get conned. Okay, don't make any mistakes. So we definitely will be happy to help you out if you got questions, concerns, and you want to just get on the right roadmap to get into Costa Rica. But you may already have all your ducks in a row, and if you do, quack quack, let's get after it. So hey, today, let's just find out. Okay, Rebecca, let's just pretend you've been in Costa Rica for 10, 11 years now, and with the experience that you have gained over the last 10 years, you're living by yourself. You don't have this awesome, intelligent, smart guy like me to help you out. You got to do it by yourself. So if you have to do it by yourself, and you're getting ready to buy a piece of property, and let's just say that you've done your research, you looked all over, and you're like, you know what? I want to live in the Paris Celadon area. What would you do if you were going to go find a piece of property?
Okay, so I've ruled out areas that I know I don't want to live in, and I've at least rented in a couple of areas to try to make my decision, and I've made my decision of the area.
Because you're a smart girl. You rented first, and you rented in a lot of places to make sure you like the area, and you like the Paris Celadon area, so you decided, now I want to buy. Right. What would you do?
Well, I would not limit myself to a realtor. I would use all resources available to me. I would use realtors, and I would use websites, not just like American websites. I would use Costa Rican websites. There's a lot of them that don't come up when you're searching in the United States.
Wait, pause right there. So you're saying that while you're in Costa Rica, you can find quite a number of real estate sites that are selling properties in Costa Rica, but those same sites don't come up in the United States.
Right.
Can you elaborate on why that is?
Well, I'm guessing because of the VPN.
Well, I know she don't know. I'm the tech guy, so I'll tell you why. Well, you see, most of the real estate sites, or most any website in Costa Rica, hey, look, they just don't put any money to them. They're not very good, and so if they're not optimized properly, then they're going to show up right here. They don't show up in the United States unless you absolutely know what you're doing, and most time, even if you know what you're doing, they don't show up. Okay, and because it is for Costa Rica.
Yeah, it's for Costa Rica. They're in Spanish. The ones that I kind of look at for rentals and property, they aren't really just real estate sites. They have cars and furniture, and it's kind of like a classifieds, an online classifieds.
Mhm.
And I find that a lot of people use that to list rather than the, I don't know if there's a fee to list on the bigger ones or whatever, but a lot of locals use it. And I would not rule out, you were mentioning how in the United States most people use a realtor and real estate sites, but some people in the US do for sale by owner.
Yeah, but not nearly as many people in the United States do for sale by owner as they do what, in Costa
Yeah,
Rica?
in Costa Rica, there are a lot of people that don't use
Matter of fact, I
realtors.
would say there's the majority of the people in Costa Rica try to sell it on their own. Not many people actually use realtors.
Right. So I would find the area that I want to be in, through due diligence, or lots of research, talking to locals, all that good stuff before
So,
buying. But
mhm.
if money's not an issue, if you have money to blow, to waste, then, if you buy a piece of property and you don't like it and you don't have to sell it in order to get another piece of property, then, you can sit on it. You can put it for sale, if you don't
But the
like it.
odds are, if you buy something you don't like, it's going to be really hard to sell it.
Right. And if you've not done your due diligence, like if you've not used, like found out everything about the property before buying it, you might just be stuck with it, because there's all kinds of laws that we didn't know about when we first came. Laws about like where aquifers are located. You can only build a certain, so many meters from an aquifer. And
Okay.
what else?
So let me back up. If money is an issue, you don't have a whole lot of money. Where would you get? What would you do to get the cheapest property possible?
I probably would ride around like we've done, on the motorbike or whatever. And when I see a piece of property that I like, I'd go knock on the door, find out who, maybe have to go into town, find out who owns that property, and just ask the person directly. Because a lot of people own a lot of land. I mean, a lot of Ticos also have like just a little tiny piece of land that their house is on, small pieces of property, and like they've divided it amongst a family, and so everybody has their little piece. But there are a lot of people who have tons of hectares with cattle on it, or
They have a ton of property
that
and
they're
no money.
right. And so they're willing to sell a piece of property. And, like I wouldn't want something right on the road.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's what I would do. But I would use all resources, but I definitely would not rule out um, just go and talk to people. I think that's the point we're trying to make,
Okay.
or that I'm
Mhm.
trying to make, is
Mhm.
that just because it's doesn't have a for sale sign doesn't mean that they wouldn't be willing to sell it.
Absolutely. And so really that's kind of the point I want to drive home. Now, the only thing I would do different than maybe what Rebecca said is that I would get, I would say, okay, there's a piece of property I'm interested in. I'd walk it, take a look at it without even talking to the guy, because it's got a for sale sign on it. Of course, I'm just going to get basic information because I don't know where the borders are at. But at least I would, say, okay, I like this area. I like this area. I would get these numbers. And then I'd get my very trusted Tico friend to make phone calls, because I promise you, if you make a phone call and you ask that Tico how much he wants for it, it's going to be $1 million. It's always going to be 3 times the price,
And
because
that's just
you're
because
a gringo.
yeah, they just see, I mean, if they watch TV, they think that we're all super rich or something. And in comparison, maybe we are, because
In comparison, we are super rich, because of the average Tico might be living on $500 to $700 a month, and most Americans are living on $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a
right.
month.
And it depends on cost of living. I mean, we see that in the United States. Minimum wage is less in Louisiana. You can buy cheaper than if you go, let's say, to Florida, or so
All
anyway,
right.
you get the idea. So but one thing, I would use a realtor to call. That's what I would probably do. I would definitely be working with a realtor or a lawyer, maybe a lawyer more so, because I would want the lawyer to check the property afterwards. You know, I'd be working in conjunction with the lawyer,
Okay.
because you have to check stuff. Remember when we were
You
trying to
do have to,
find
you do
the
have to check stuff.
property for the tower,
Right.
and that one man was like, "Oh yeah, I'll sell it to you," and he had a good price. And then come to find out, after we did the
He didn't even own it. He was a squatter.
Yeah, he didn't have legal
That squatter
rights.
was happy to sell a piece of property. So let me just back up. So in my opinion, Rebecca would get conned. She's going to pay way too much, okay? Because she's like me, very trusting. So she's going to call that Tico. She's going to get a price. She's going to pay way too much from that Tico, okay? Now, Rebecca does have a good attorney. She uses my attorney, okay? And so you do have to be careful. So there's tons of horror stories of hiring a Tico attorney. And, you know, you have to understand, I'm not saying every Tico is a con man or every Tico is going to rip you off. There are some good, honest Ticos. But most of a lot of times, there's so many horror stories where the Tico, the attorney, he's doing the paperwork. It's all in Spanish. You don't know Spanish. You can't read it. You don't see all the fine print. And he puts it in his name because guess what? You're 67 years old. You're going to die, and then he's going to inherit it because his name is on it, okay? You'll never be able to sell it. So there's a lot of those kind of horror stories that actually happen.
Yeah, there's also property in Costa Rica that is in litigation. Like there's court hearings still like currently going on as to who is the rightful owner of
because
property.
Of that kind of thing. Now, here's something to understand. Every piece of property gets registered in the public registry. Do you know that there is more land in the public registry? If you add up all of those hectares, there's more hectares in the public registry than there is in all of Costa Rica. In other words, there's quite a few pieces of property been sold more than once.
Yeah, and I was getting at the indigenous peoples are trying to reassert their claim to.
In some places, you do have to be careful,
yeah,
where Indians are trying to claim property that they've already sold, okay? So there's a lot of things to keep in mind, which brings up, hey, if you need, it's extremely, extremely important. And so we're really kind of putting the cart before the horse. You do need to have an attorney, okay? But let's kind of go through that process. You do need to have an attorney. And look, in the description of this video, you'll be able to find the attorney I use, okay? Extremely good. And she has a whole team that can help you do your due diligence to make sure that you have everything that you need in order to build. Because you know, look, you can go knocking on doors and you can get a price, and then you can find out, yeah, he's an actual owner of the property, and then you could buy it without, you could just outright buy it, get a Tico, and then an attorney, and he's not going to go through there and say, well, you got to have a water letter. He's not going to do that for you. Right. So you got to have a good attorney. So you might end up using the wrong attorney, buy a piece of property, you don't have a water letter, and that water letter you must have in order to build. And so now you're stuck with a piece of property you can't even build on.
Right. And I wouldn't rely on just the realtor for all that information, because they're not necessarily trained in that. They can do some research, but most
realtors aren't trained. Most realtors,
they don't know a lot of the laws.
So I'm going to back up. So I'm going to go to what Diana says right here. Diana says, no offense to realtors. If you're here, don't go get mad. But I believe if a property is listed with a realtor and in English, it's already overpriced. Give me a high five. Give me a fist bump. Woohoo! Okay, you're absolutely right, Diana. Now, not in every single case, okay? But you have to understand. And that's why I tell everybody, look, on this channel, you're going to get the unbridled truth. Why? I don't have anything to sell you, okay? I don't care if you come to Costa Rica or not. But if you do come to Costa Rica, I want you to know the truth. There's a ton of channels out there, ton of realtor channels, ton of YouTubers just like me, and they want to sell you Costa Rica. I don't want to sell you Costa Rica, but I want you to know the truth. So, look, I've got nothing against people trying to make a living. However, when people are trying to make a living, unfortunately, things happen, they get greedy, they need money, and so the prices go up because, hey, a realtor can find a really great deal on a piece of property and then tell the guy, well, look, man, you can get a whole lot better price on that, man. A Tico will Some ticklers are just really honest. Not all of them, but some are. And they're like, okay, well, I only want $100,000 for this piece of property. Oh, no, 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 no. You can sell that for $200,000. Why would a realtor do that? She's going to get a commission. She's going to get a great commission. Okay. Now, when I recommend somebody, if they have proven to me that they're not any good, I feel obligated that if I recommend somebody, for example, I've got a great attorney, okay? And in the past, I used to recommend an attorney, and guess what? Found out he wasn't honest. So if I recommend somebody I think is honest, don't you think I have an obligation to tell you when that person is dishonest? Absolutely. And so I have no qualms with telling you, hey, look, there's an attorney that's in San Isidro. His name is Jorge. Do not use him. That guy, he claims to be a pastor of a church. He is a pastor of a church. He's crooked, okay? He tried screwing me several times, but I thought he was a friend. Yeah, look, you've got to be very, very careful. So you know what? If I recommend somebody, it's because I trust them. I've vetted them. But some people will get greedy, and all of a sudden, I won't use them anymore because now they've gotten greedy and they're not treating people right. So, hey, if you use somebody I recommend, hey, it's good to let them know, hey, I found out about you from Alan's YouTube channel. He says you are a great person, and they're going to make sure to take good care of you. And most of the time, you're going to get a great deal because you found out from my channel. Okay. Now, yes.
It's something to understand, though. It's not individual Ticos necessarily with this pricing thing. It's the culture.
It is the culture.
It is customary or normal to ask for more than what you're willing to accept. It's just the way that they do things. We don't do that in the United States. If you're you're always going to ask for more because there's some negotiating, but not that much more. Most of the time it's important in the US to price it, correctly, because if not, it'll sit on the market. But this is a whole different culture. It's just bordering, not bordering. What do you call when you go back and forth?
You're bartering. You're going back and forth. You're bartering.
No, there's another word.
Well, you're not bartering. You're
haggling.
Yeah, you're haggling back and forth
and
to get the right price.
I hate doing that. I don't like to do that.
Well,
anyway, but I don't know, a high percentage of times that whatever the price that is listed, the person is going to be willing to take less than that. And while you were talking, I thought about this. If there are fire sales sometimes listed on the gringo websites.
A lot of times there's fire sales on the gringo websites, and that's because they've asked. Well, most of the time you're going to get a whole lot of people. Here's a great example. Uvita right now is a hot spot. So people are just buying up properties, and they're buying overpriced properties. They get down there, they stay a year or two, and then they realize there ain't nothing here. Why is it a hot spot? Well, it's a hot spot because a bunch of knuckle YouTubers are advertising it's the next greatest, hottest thing, and ain't nothing there. Okay. So now after a year, they try selling it. They can't sell it. They're trying to get their money back, and they're having to drop the price so they could sell it and buy another place.
Well, and sometimes it's situational.
Yeah, a lot of times people get ill. They go back home.
Right. Remember the house that we were doing? It was close to the beach, great property, well-built house. He had to go back to Canada for treatments. They needed to sell. And
they really needed to sell.
They had to take less. They really
and now they didn't lose any money because they bought years and years and years and years ago. Got it cheap. But of course, obviously, everybody's trying to make money on their property because that's what you do with property. Property goes up in value.
Trying to sell it for what it was worth at that time. But because of circumstances and the situation,
because of health reasons, they ended up not getting nearly as much as they could have if they weren't in a hurry to sell.
So a lot of times the fire sales are because of that.
Yeah. So, it does go back to what Randy's saying. It's the basics of negotiating. You do have to be willing to negotiate. So you have to be willing to walk away from the property. So let me just back up a little bit.
That was another thing I was going to say. If I were shopping, I would before have the mindset of I need to be willing to walk away. That's hard on my personality because it's like if I fall in love with a site or place, okay, that's where I want to be. But you can't be like that. you have to just have the mindset of this is too high, this is more than I want to pay, be willing to walk away, and if it was meant to be yours, they'll come back, and most
Okay.
of the times they will.
Now, every single time almost they're going to come back. So here's what you do, folks. Okay. Now, like Rebecca says, hey, you can talk to a realtor because you might find a fire sale. Okay. But it will at least give you an idea. You know, a realtor's got this 6 hectares. It's $100,000. You know, doesn't have hardly any trees on it. It gives you an idea, a basis for comparison, because people ask all the time, what is the average price for an acre? Dude, in Costa Rica, there is no average price. Every Tico wants to be an instant millionaire. Every Tico wants to make $1 million. Okay.
And we know you got to watch for things like you need water, a good water supply. You don't want to buy down from cattle.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what you want to do. Check with the realtors so you can get an idea. Then start knocking on doors. And then, you know, when I say knocking on doors, go down there. There's everything in Costa Rica is for sale. It's got a for sale sign. If it doesn't have a for sale sign and you see it and you like it, find out who owns it, ask a few neighbors, and then ask if he's willing to sell you a piece of property. I guarantee it will. So I'm going to go back to a story. When we first came here, I wanted to buy a small piece of property. At that particular time, the smallest piece of property I could buy was 200 meters. I had already decided 200 meters, tiny piece of property, middle of nowhere. All I'm going to spend is 1,000,000 colones. 1,000,000 colones. Now, 1,000,000 colones, today's exchange rate, it's about $2,000. Okay. Back then, it was 1,600. Everybody tell me, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. You'll never get it that cheap. I said, I promise you I can get it that cheap. I started knocking on doors. I brought my Tico friend with me. Started knocking on doors, and we ran into the first guy, because you have to understand that a lot of Ticos have an inherited property. They are property rich, money poor. So they're willing to sell a piece of property. So we knocked on doors. First guy immediately wanted to sell me a piece of property, but he was squatting on a piece of land. Kept going, found a lady who did have a piece of property. She was more than happy to sell me a piece of property, 200 square meters. And because all I want to do is put my tower on it for the internet. Now, I could build a house on it if I wanted. So she sold me that piece. At that time, that was $1,600. $1,600 for a piece of property, okay? Now, of course, after she decided, agreed to it, I went to an attorney, made sure it was mine, did all of the stuff that we needed to do, and I was able to, you know, make sure I had a clear piece of property. So you have to do your due diligence, and you're only going to be able to do that with an attorney. Now, if I'd have gone to a realtor, that would have never, ever happened. Okay. So a lot of times realtors got to make money. A lot of times realtors get greedy. Not all of them. Okay.
Yeah. And Gordon has a good point. I don't know if you see that.
Right here.
Look at 1646.
You know, and yeah, I did see that. You know, Gordon says, hey, make sure not to tell an agent, real estate agent, how much you're willing to pay. Hey, I'm willing to pay $100,000. Guarantee you she'll find you an acre for $100,000. Okay.
Yeah, use my terms. It depends.
Yeah.
I say that a lot. It depends. It's going to depend on what, you know, on the property, how much water is available. What's, you know,
and of course, you know, Gordon says use a local Tico. So you have to make sure that you got to find a good friend, because we say use a local Tico. This happens a lot. You get a Tico who, as soon as you come to Costa Rica, everybody wants to be your friend. And so this Tico wants to be your friend, and there's almost always an ulterior motive, because he knows he's going to make money off you. Oh, I help you with this. I help you with that. So he'll help you all right. And so he'll go get the price, and then because you don't know Spanish, he's gonna like, hey, how much you want for that piece of property? Oh, I want $100,000. Hey, I'm gonna sell it for 150, and that way he'll make 50,000. Okay, that happens a whole lot. So you got to be very careful when using a local Tico. Okay, you need someone that you really can trust. And he says he bought his first house in Liberia for $8,000 in 1992. Didn't have any agents, but then he went and found him a good attorney. And
yeah,
so,
you don't have to use a realtor, but you need to use an attorney for your safety.
You have to have an attorney. If you do use a realtor, don't use a realtor's attorney. Never make that mistake, okay?
And try to use an attorney that has a reference from somebody that you trust or know.
Hey, use the attorney I recommend. Okay, if you don't, you know, and the reason I recommend her is she's not a local. She's a great attorney, has a great team. You can get a local, but you know what? You might get screwed.
Yeah, she's an international attorney, but whatever attorney you use, because we have heard of and read in the papers and about horror stories, and one person that we know personally, where the attorney ripped them off by putting, like you were talking about at first, putting the property, everything's in Spanish, or you don't understand the law, and they tell you, you can make me power of attorney so that I can carry out this stuff for you. And then exactly what you were saying at the beginning. So that has happened.
Now let's go back to, to what Doug is saying here. Just reminded me. Doug said, before I bought the place I have now, he has a place in Costa Rica. It was back and forth. I did walk away from the deal because of a butthole agent. Okay. And look, these real estate agents will look, okay, enough on that. Now, what I say is always be willing to walk away. And here's what I would do. Once I knocked on doors and I found the piece of property I'd want, I'd find 2 or 3 that I'd like. I'd go up and I'd say, hey, look, I like your property. Okay. And you told me you want $250,000 for it, but you know what? I'm only going to give you $150,000. I like it, but I'm looking at 2 or 3 others. So, will you take 150? He's going to immediately say no. And I'm going to walk away. Now, you know what? I'm going to go to another house and I'm going to do the same thing at all 3 places. And then I promise you, within a week, the guy that you walked away from, he's already in his mind. He's thinking, man, if I got $150,000, I could buy this. I could get a new car. I could do this. He's already spent that $150,000 in his mind. And within about 48 hours, 48 hours to 72 hours, he's going to call you back and he's going to say, he's either going to counter or he's going to come back and say, yeah, I want to sell it to you. So always be willing to walk away, because as soon as you tell him how much you're willing to pay for it, then he's going to start spending that money in his head. Okay. So keep in mind, this is what I always say. A piece of property is never worth anything. It's only worth what you are willing to pay for it. They can have $1 million on it, but if you're not willing to pay but $500,000, that's what it's worth to you. And that's what you have to do. If you do that, you can find great property deals. Now, kind of talked about how you can find really great deals. You can find fire sales with realtors. I tend to stay away from them. I don't trust them. There is one that I trust. Okay. Hadn't heard from her in a long time. I don't know if she quit or not. So, and she was really a great attorney. Now when you do find here, okay, so I told you how you can go and find one without a realtor. Okay. But you can find a realtor that have great deals. Okay. You will find great deals. I've seen some great deals on websites, but is there a place that you can go and find fire sales? Okay. Absolutely. Do you know where you can go and find fire sales? I know you do know, but I'm sure you've forgotten.
You talking about the name of the website?
Nope.
On the bulletin boards?
Nope. Every time you go into this place, they've got fire sales on the monitor.
On the monitor.
You go to any bank, almost any bank.
Yeah, on the feed, yeah.
You go to almost any bank, on the monitor, they're going to have all of these properties that they have repossessed. Those are fire sale properties. So all you got to do is go over there and sit in there, and you can just take a look and take your notepad, write down, I'm interested in that one and that one and that one. Then talk to the banker and say, hey, you want to look at those properties, find out how much they are. You can get some fire sale properties, okay? So look, if you're still here, this is worth your weight in gold. Go to the bank, and you might not find what you're looking for, but the bank does have them all over the place. And see if you can't find you a property that you can get a great deal on, okay? Yeah. So,
and people even post flyers, like if you talk to some of the locals, they'll tell you, oh, go to such and such restaurant. Everybody goes put their flyer over there.
Now, I didn't mention the attorney's name because I want you to go into the description, click on the link, and in the link, her name is Cristina, okay? Click on that link. You can download a free PDF, and that free PDF will give you all of the information that you need so that you can contact Cristina. She's a great attorney. So in the description below, I'm almost positive it's in the description already. I think I already put it in there. If not, as soon as I'm over, I'll put it in there. But hey, take a look. I've done several videos with her. Extremely great person, okay?
And she has offices in 2 places in Costa Rica, but she services all of Costa Rica.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because, don't just look, her office is over on Guanacaste or in San Jose. I think that's the 2 places. But she will service down San Vito area, the border and all of that.
You know, this person says many houses in Costa Rica are overpriced. There has been room, there has to be room to get a lower price, and I don't want to pay gringo prices. I'm looking to buy before the year's end. So, hey, do exactly what we tell you, because you'll definitely, the majority of the houses are overpriced, but everything in Costa Rica is for sale. I promise you, okay? Now, Diana asked, should you avoid shopping for property during tourist season? Absolutely, okay? Now, yes and no, okay? So, in tourist season, if you're in that touristy area, you are definitely going to overpay. They're used to tourists coming in. They're used to conning tourists. You know, tourists come over and they just fall in love, and they impulse buy. They have more money than sense, and they buy a piece of property. They haven't watched our videos, and then they end up getting conned. Okay. So you do want to be careful. Hey, quick shout out. Quick shout out to Janice. We want to thank you very much. You know, it's a great way to support the channel. She just supported the channel. You can click that $sign on the YouTube channel, and you can support our channel, because, you know, we don't sell anything, but hey, we do greatly, you know, we have jobs, we have money, I have online businesses, but we greatly support. It motivates us and gives us a reason to keep doing our best to help you guys out. So thank you so much, Janice. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate you. Okay. So I'm going through here, and I'm just kind of taking a look at some questions and some comments, because I do want to answer all of your questions, okay? Now, here's a good question, and I thought about, can you get good deals anywhere in Costa Rica? I mean, like, can you really negotiate and get good prices anywhere in Costa Rica?
Yeah, if you negotiate.
What about if I'm right in the middle of in Jaco? Or what if you said, hey, I want to live in Playa Hermosa?
Yeah.
You can, but here's how you do it. You don't want to live right dab smack in Playa Hermosa. If you live dab smack in Playa Hermosa, prices are crazy high. They've got Hermosa Calle. I like to just call that Gringo Avenue. There are more gringos on that road than there are Ticos, okay? And that's the one place that has changed, and Ticos act differently there than anywhere else because of how many gringos are there. So that place, if you go there, you're going to pay way, way, way too much. When I lived over in Jaco, everything was 2 to 3 times higher than where we're living at now or anywhere else in Costa Rica, because anywhere where there's a huge concentration of gringos and tourists, it's going to be high. But let's say you do like that area and you want to live close to Playa Hermosa. Just start looking for property anywhere 15, 20 minutes outside of that. If you're 15 to 20 minutes outside of it, you'll get some great, great deals, okay? So don't be scared to negotiate.
Yeah. And I wanted to say earlier, when you were mentioning that you paid $1,600 for that, what was it, 400 square meters?
Yeah, it was 200 square meters.
200 square meters. That was in an undesirable location.
Very undesirable location.
I would not build a house there. First of all, it was smack dab between a couple of houses. So there was no privacy. There were no trees. But
there was plenty of trees there. I had to cut some down to put my tower there.
Right.
But it wasn't
it for the tower. Right.
We needed it for the tower. Wasn't planning.
So don't base, what I'm saying is, don't base that as a price for a desirable piece of property.
Right. I mean, you could go and get a piece of property, for $1,600 like me, or $2,000 like I did for $1 million colones. But it ain't gonna be in the best place in the world. Now, was it a safe place? Yeah, it's a safe place. It was super, super hot,
far away from everything.
Right. Now, a good question right here that Diana asked says, I love the Paris Zeledon area. It's a great place. Are there good veterinarians there?
Yes, I know one. That's where we go for Cutie and Nikki. And I guess that we can put I'd have to go look it up, but there are some. I mean, do your research. This veterinarian that we use is off of the road that goes from Paris Zeledon to Dominical, and they have a grooming shop. They cater to a lot of gringos.
They're really, really good.
They speak English. Not all of them, but some, they do always have one person there that speaks fairly good English.
Now, Diana has a good comment. He says, I'm planning on end of September. I need a rental for me and my cats until I find the right property. So, hey, you probably will never have a problem finding a rental for your cats, for your dog. Costa Rica is animal friendly. I mean, heck, they let me in anywhere. So they're animal friendly. So you won't have no problem finding a rental in most cases.
In most Airbnb
Some
sometimes
Airbnbs, if they're
because of
really
allergies,
nice,
and if they
right.
have a good
Mhm.
rental, like they have a
Right.
lot of clients and they're doing well with it, then they'll say no animals
Now,
because
you
of
do want to be very
allergies.
careful, Diana. You know, there's people on YouTube. Hey, come to Costa Rica. I'll help you move. Be very, very careful. A lot of those people, they do that. They'll find you rentals and all that. Every once in a while, I'll find someone a rental. It's not something I like to do. Well, I'm lying. I enjoy doing it. It's not something I have to do, okay? Because we have jobs and I enjoy my free time, okay? But there's people that do that for a living. Be careful, because a lot of times they're going to say, got to have a contract. You got to do this. You got to pay a deposit. I've had 2 contracts and over 25 houses. I think I paid maybe 1 or 2 deposits, okay? But these people that are trying to help you, they're trying to make money, okay? And so be very, very, very careful. So, hey, you can contact me if you want. If I happen to have time, I can tell you, if I can do it, or I can recommend somebody that can help you to find a rental if you need to, depending on where you're at.
And
okay?
even things like that, deposits and we just said it.
Deposits and contracts.
Contracts, yeah, can be negotiated. Like if you only want to be there for 3 months and they're asking for 1 year, just talk to them and ask them. Back to the veterinarian, the one that we use, they are very, very caring. Very sensitive. I mean, just care about the animals.
Yeah.
So
we've had a couple of people that wanted a contract, and I just flat out told them, where we were at in Chimarro. I said, look, I'm not signing a contract. Why? Because every time I sign a contract, okay, no, he wanted a contract and he wanted a deposit. I says, every time I give a deposit, you don't give it back. 99% of the time, only one house did I get the deposit back on, okay? But most of the time, if you put a deposit down, when it comes to your last month and you're not going to be there, you're not going to be there, just let them know, hey, look, today is July, August is going to be last month. Use my deposit for rent, okay? That's the only way you're going to get that deposit back. Because when you give a deposit,
customary too.
Chico spend that money. They ain't not holding that money.
That's kind of customary. That same house that I was surprised that we got our deposit back, because that was the same place that when they broke in, when they stole the tools, they cut the screen. And I called that lady like once a month at least, telling her, can you repair the screen? And
never did repair
it, and it ended up coming. We left after our year was up.
Now, you can find good deals, and take a look at what Doug said. Doug says the house they have is in a failed development. There's a lot of failed developments in Costa Rica.
Yeah, they have beautiful gates, beautiful entries.
Beautiful, yeah. And so you could probably get a half acre, more or less, for roughly $15,000 to start. And we're on the Nicoya Peninsula. So, hey, if you want to get more information for Doug, well, on the YouTube channel, just reply to his comment and ask him if he can give you some more information, if he can help you. But you can absolutely, sorry, Doug, if I just told people to contact you. I didn't mean that. Anyway, but his point is, I think, is you can find a lot of failed developments out there where you can get some really great deals. Because I can promise you, hey, Doug, I'd like to know, before it was a failed development, do you know how much that same half-acre lot would have gone for? I'd like to know that price, okay? And, oh, look, John says, and Tamagringo. Look, if you go to Tamarindo, man, that is touristy place. That is Tamagringo. You are absolutely right. Yeah. Tons of people.
And in Estorrillos, there's a place called Canadian Hill. There are so many Canadians in that area. There's a whole section of housing, and it's big. It's a large area.
Yeah.
And it's full of Canadians.
And it's Canadian Hill, and hence the name. I guess a lot of Canadians decided to live up there. Now, someone asked, John, you are 20 years late. He says, what about between Nassau and Santa Teresa? That area, Nicoya Peninsula is underdeveloped, but along that beach, you can forget it. It is developed, and prices have gone crazy, gone through the roof over there. Now, this
Although it's surprising, there still are beachfront, oceanfront properties,
okay. So
even
let me
in
back.
very
Okay.
popular, densely populated areas.
We're going to back up to that. Okay. So while prices have gone through the roof, in Costa Rica, you can find some decent beachfront properties. They might be small, but you can find decent beachfront properties. I've seen beachfront properties on the beach for $250,000. Okay. Now, of course, that's, you got to build, right?
And
now,
there's concessions.
Yeah, there are concessions. Now, keep in mind, if that same piece of property in the United States, you might end up paying $500,000 or $1 million. I don't know.
Probably more than that, depending on.
Right. So, in comparison, yes, you can get beachfront properties at phenomenal deals in Costa Rica.
Well, they're still available. For one thing,
right.
In a lot of areas in the U.S., there's no more beachfront property. Not for sale. It's all bought up, is what I'm saying.
Now, this guy says, what's the best place to visit? Lemoyne, Punta Arenas, Guanacaste. Guanacaste, you're going to pay way more money because Guanacaste, it's a lot of gringos up there, a lot of tourists, okay? Lemoyne, unless you like Bob Marley, don't go to Lemoyne. Lemoyne doesn't even feel like Costa Rica. It feels like Bob Marley. It's a Caribbean, African-American culture down there. Totally different vibe. Doesn't feel like Costa Rica at all. But some people like that vibe, okay? Rebecca and I didn't like it. The people there were way more aggressive than the Ticos.
But even on that side, even over there was Margaritaville.
Yeah, there was
where
Margaritaville.
It was a huge
I think
concentration.
it was because their water tower was just a margarita.
But there was a huge concentration of expats there. I actually liked the area.
Oh, it was beautiful area as far as waters and stuff go.
Yeah, the waters.
People was different.
Yeah, the culture was just different. Not that it's bad. It's just wasn't our cup of tea, put it that way.
Right.
But it was good, and a lot of people love it. And
your favorite restaurant, which was
Coquis.
So if you go over there, go eat at Coquis, which was over in Puerto Viejo.
Yeah, and I love Coquis Beach and what is it, Punta? Oh, I hope I didn't just say a curse word. What is Point? Uva.
Punta Uva.
Punta Uva.
Yeah, if you go to Punta Uva, beautiful place.
Yeah.
Now, this same
and there is beachfront property on that side.
Oh yeah, there's and look, you can even though the people are crazy over there, if you find you a piece of property where you can, like I always say, CYE, control your environment. If you can control your environment, you don't have to put up with the buttholes that have attitudes. Okay.
Now on that side, Cawita has a beautiful national park. And remember, we did house sitting almost a year on that side, and the people were selling their house that we house set for, and they were asking $500,000 for this house.
It had a $500,000 view.
Yeah, it had an ocean view.
House.
Right. It was pretty much a glorified pole barn.
Yeah.
Everything was open. I mean, I found 2 snakes in the house. It was full of
there was snakes, bats, frogs. Name it.
But it was beautiful. But
look, these people were con people. They told us that there was a plunge pool in the house. That wasn't no plunge pool. That was a snake infested, frog infested.
It was more like an atrium.
Yeah, it was.
There was no way I was gonna plunge in that pool.
You wasn't cooling off in that pool.
No, it was an indoor atrium, and the wall that the bed headboard was against shared with the atrium. And I was always terrified of that something, because I'd see all kinds of stuff in that atrium. I was always terrified that something was going to crawl over that wall and land on us at night.
This guy says, I bought 2 lots in San Julio, I think that is, Guanacaste. It's a beautiful beach, but it's hard to find good contractors, and they are expensive. Yes, there are a couple of good contractors, or at least one that I know of over there. Okay, but yeah, because it's because it's Gringoville in that area, it's very, very hard to find a good contractor. Extremely hard. Okay, and that's probably your number one thing, is finding a contractor that can build you a house to American standards. It's almost impossible, but it is possible. Now, Doug answered that question. I'm really glad he answered. So that same place where he was at in that failed development, that you can now get half a acre for about $15,000. it was 100,000 15 years ago. See, so, anytime there's a development, man, prices will go through the roof. Matter of fact, I've been thinking about developing a piece of property over here. I don't own it, but heck, why not? The money I can make. So anyway, there's money to be made if you want to develop and you build it just right. I would love to develop a piece of property. And I'm actually seriously thinking about doing that as soon as somebody donates $1 million to me so I can buy the property to develop. And Doug says that piece is about 20 minutes from Montezuma, 25 to Santa Teresa, and 20 to Tambor. So that gives you kind of an idea.
Those are all very popular beaches.
Yeah. So, you really can. So, hey, I started off this whole podcast saying, hey, what is the cheapest way to find a piece of property? Well, the cheapest way to find a piece of property is boots on the ground, knocking on people, getting some, actually going over there, property for sale. These people have had properties for sale for so long that you almost can't even read the hand painted sign that they put on there. Okay.
Oh yeah, I was going to mention that. Don't be afraid of, like, people are just getting a white sheet and hanging it over their fence and spray painting for sale. Well, it doesn't say for sale, it's say vende, but so don't be afraid of these homemade signs.
Because look, they'll make a sign and
they make a sign out of anything.
Out of anything. So I mean, you'll be driving down there, and when I first came here, everything was for sale. So I immediately said, well, hey, in Costa Rica, and I'm glad I thought about this, because in Costa Rica, anybody can be a realtor. So they don't have the same kind of laws like in the United States. Now, Costa Rica is trying to correct that, but it's not corrected. So you know what? I can say I'm a realtor and I can sell you property and it's 100% legal, okay? Because, in the United States, they have all kind of rules and regulations, and in Costa Rica, it's not the same. But they do have some good realtors here that, are doing the right thing. It's just whether or not you can trust that they're not going to bump up the price because, hey, they're trying to make a killing. I mean, a living. No, they're trying to make a killing. The more they sell it for, the bigger their commission is. That's just a part of life. And that's what I hate about, you got to be careful whenever you're getting your information. So, hey, the cheapest way to get a piece of property is to go knocking on doors, do your due diligence, have you a trusted Tico that'll knock on doors for you, or, write down those numbers. And then you say, hey, can you make some phone calls for me? Find out how much it is. Because I've actually done that. I've actually had my Tico friend that I trust call, and he found out that piece of property was 8 million colones. Okay. I called up the next day in my gringo accent, wanted to find out how much it was, and it all of a sudden went to 9 million. So in one day, it had increased from 8 million to 9 million because I'm a gringo. Okay. Yeah. So it does happen a lot.
And we experienced that just the other day with wanting to rent a property to kind of have something down in San Isidro, and we were tossing around the idea of turning it into an Airbnb for when we weren't using it. And the price went up from $400 to $500 a month, just like that.
Like that. I mean, it happens all the time. And yep, John, you missed it, man. We got some good information on real estate, but guess what? You can watch the replay after this is over. Lots of good information. And so what we were talking about is, hey, that's the cheapest way to get it. And hey, where can you get fire sale property?
On the internet?
No.
At the bank.
Talk about ain't listening to our own podcast.
I remember you saying about the bank, but really, fire sales are listed on
some realtor websites. Will have fire sale properties, but go to the bank and you can get some fire sale properties every single day. And can you trust an attorney? Well, I would say very, very few. Very few. I say not attorney. Well, you can't. Can you trust a realtor is what I meant to say. Can you trust a realtor? Very, very few realtors can you trust, okay? Most realtors, if you talk to a realtor, here's a quick way to find out if you can trust them. Say, hey, in Costa Rica, is this a buyer's market or a seller's market? If a realtor says, oh, man, it's a seller's market, boy, if you find you a piece of property, you better swoop it up because, man, they're going like this. You better run. Run, head for the hills. Because, look, everything is for sale. It's not a seller's market. It's a buyer's market, okay? Way too much inventory, okay? So if that realtor tells you that if she doesn't say it's a buyer's market, run, 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 Okay, you know she's a liar. Okay, or him, whoever. Okay, so make sure you're careful. And look,
And
it
be
is
careful of the
difficult.
attorneys too.
Yeah, be very, very careful with attorneys.
Get
Uh,
references.
I've been working with an attorney for a long time. Cristina is exceptional. She has a whole team. Okay, and so it's really, really good because she has a whole team, and the whole team makes sure that you have everything that you need when it comes time to buying a piece of property. Okay. Um, Now take a look. John says, I got lucky. A brother from my union is from Costa Rica and just bought a piece of property in Alajuela and is going to start looking out for me. I want either Gracia or antennas. Hey, good. Hey, man, you are lucky. So if you got someone like that, and here's something interesting. When I say that Tico's will certainly give you the gringo price, okay? Like he said, he's got a friend that's in a union. He says his brother from his union is from Costa Rica. So he's got someone that's from Costa Rica. This Tico that's in Costa Rica, when he goes back to Costa Rica, all those Ticos are going to rip him off if he's not careful. So my point is, look, Ticos, they're not prejudiced. They rip each other off back and forth, okay? Because if a Tico has been to the United States, they know he has made a lot of money. And so they're going to rip him off. They're going to give him the gringo price just like they would you. So, hey, not all Ticos. Let me say I have got some extremely good Tico friends, okay? I'm real close with a lot of Tico friends, but you just got
Well,
to be
it
careful.
only takes one to rip you off.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then especially when it's something like that. Look, I wanted to share the vet that we use.
Well, yeah, but
Corral del Sol.
Corral. So the vet that Rebecca really likes, the name is Corral del Sol. But hey, you can search on Google Corral del Sol, and they are extremely good. If she gives me that information, I'll be sure to put it in the description after this is over. But hey, we are already at the top of the hour. If I did not answer your question, be sure to put your question in there right now because I'd love to answer that question. And John says, that accent, Cajun? Yeah, it's Cajun. I pretty much lost my Cajun accent. And then I found this girl who thinks she's Cajun. She ain't Cajun. She's half, I don't know what, but I'm Cajun.
You're full of it.
Anyway, hey, Hey, look, John just shared, this guy makes a lot of money. He works 7 days a week. Ticos, when they go to the United States, they making money because they put that, he says he banks $3,500 a week easily, okay? And they do that. They will work. Look, Ticos will go to the United States and they will just work themselves to the bone for 5 or 10 years. And then they come back and they got this humongous nest egg so that they can then buy their slice of paradise. A lot of Ticos do that, okay? So anyway, hey, folks, we've really enjoyed the show. If I didn't answer your question, be sure to put it down there right now. But look, guys, we greatly appreciate you showing up. Just like this guy, thanks for a great show. We really, really enjoy having you here. It's always great. The best way you can support us is actually by sharing, liking, commenting, especially after the video is over. After the podcast is over, make sure to comment in the comment section. And that tells the algorithm that you enjoyed it and it's worth sharing with other people. So, hey, we greatly appreciate you. Thanks so much for joining us live. And, hey, I have no idea what we'll be talking about next week, but hopefully we're going to get something accomplished on the off-grid homestead. Yep. All right, folks. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.